The break is over and fights are back, which means I'm here sitting in this chair breaking down the entire UFC Perth fight card. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Perth fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings Fantasy Plays. If you have never seen me before, I've been doing this for a few years. I've been breaking down these cards for a few years, but we have also been directing people to our website, WeWantPicks.com, for a few years, because on the website, we have a full suite of tools and breakdowns and picks and bets. And people have used that full suite of tools and breakdowns and picks and bets to build winning DraftKings fantasy lineups to the tune of more than $1 million over the last couple of years. Here's a collage of random DMs and random tickets and breakdowns that we're getting from people. I use your site. I use your tools. I made $100. I made $35,000. I made $60,000. A few events ago, we're getting tagged in $34,000 wins. A few events ago, we're getting tagged in $25,000 wins, $10,000 wins. And all of those people have gone to my website, WeWantPicks.com, and they've unlocked it all. And they've used the tools, the insight, and the information. Everything we have on this website, you are looking at the website. Everything on this website is instantly unlocked for $10. And that $10 is for an entire month. And that's exactly what these people have done. They paid $10, and the results are really magnificent things. If I go into our DraftKings offering, we have a full suite of things specifically for DraftKings, as well as FanDuel Fantasy. One of those tools is the Fight Simulator. This Fight Simulator is going to simulate every fight on every fight card 100,000 times. It's going to give you the outputs, and then you can have it build DraftKings Fantasy lineups for you, or use those outputs to place bets. We have a DraftKings Fantasy Optimizer. This will build DraftKings Fantasy lineups for you. It'll also build FanDuel fantasy lineups for you. And you're watching this, and maybe you're saying, dude, these people won $1 million over the last couple of years. I want to win a couple of bucks, whether it's $10, whether it's $100, whether it's an astronomical number. How do I do that? I don't know how to use an optimizer. Well, don't worry. We have the industry's first beginner mode. Nobody else has anything like this. Everybody else assumes that you're some sort of wild genius expert, and everybody else assumes that you understand how to use the tools. Not us. We have the tool designed for experts, but we also have a beginner mode. Once you click that beginner mode slider, it is now going to ask you a series of logical questions. Instead of expecting you to understand ownership and all of those other things, it's going to say, what fighters are your most confident underdogs? What fighters are your most confident favorites? Any fighters you don't want on your lineup at all? And you answer those questions, and it'll build the lineups for you. Every single freaking thing that I just mentioned, 30 things I haven't mentioned, are available right now for $10. It's $10 an entire month. There is no upsell. There is no cross-sell. There's no weird tiers or packages. It's not a limited time. It is $10 for an entire month. The greatest offering in this space, the greatest offering this space has ever seen, the greatest offering this space will ever see. Love me or hate me, that website is the best thing that's ever happened to betting and DraftKings Fantasy, FanDuel Fantasy, Underdog, Prize Picks, and everything else for MMA. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. As you can tell, I'm a little fired up. I'm excited that fights are back. The last month has been kind of annoying. We only had 2 fight cards in the last month. We had a week off, 2 fight nights, a week off. We're back. We are full back. We have a long stretch of multiple pay-per-views, regional fight nights, and this is one of them. So I am very excited to get back into watching fights and cursing at fighters and being exciting for fighters and doing everything that we do as MMA fans, as UFC fans, as degenerates. Let's go ahead and break down this card. We had 15 fights. We are down to 14. And as always, we'll start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. Seemingly, DraftKings is saying the opening fight on the card is going to be Alexia Thainara taking on Lookboonmee. Alexia Thainara is relatively untested. She only has the 1 fight in the UFC against Molly McCann, and she mopped the floor with Molly McCann. Someone somewhere gave Molly McCann a jiu-jitsu brown belt. Didn't look like that in that fight. Alexia Thainara came forward, took her dumbass down immediately dominated, and got a submission there. Alexia Thainara is not the most technically sound fighter in the division, but she is big, strong, a bully, has takedowns, has grappling. Striking's not very good, but she'll get after it. And she's taking on Lookboonmee. Lookboonmee is a very good fighter. She's very skilled. High-level Muay Thai striking, very good offensive wrestling, defensive wrestling. If it's against a cage, she's fine. If it's in the middle, not so much. If she gets her own takedowns on top, she's got good control. If she gets taken down, pure survival mode. Doesn't have much to offer on back. The problem is Loma's teeny tiny. Little bitty. She is very small. She fights at 115. If there was a 95-pound division, she'd be in that. She is small. And I think it's going to matter here. I think she just gets straight up bullied. On the ground, defensively, she's okay, right? I don't really see her just getting subbed immediately. But I do think she's just going to get big sistered. I think she's going to get pushed around, taken down, and not have much to offer other than just trying to survive. So I'm very confident in Alexia Thainara. I'm going to have her in my lineup. That's a lot of money to spend, but the way DraftKings fantasy points work with obviously finishes scoring well, takedown scoring well, control time racking up points, I think Alexia Thainara can potentially do all of those things. Then we have Brando Perisic taking on Elisha Ellison. Both of these guys are UFC debuts. Brando Perisic, 2 weeks ago, was an underdog. The line opened with him being plus 185, almost a 2-1 underdog. He is now more than a 2-1 favorite. And that's because he's a high-level striker. He's been striking for the last, 15 years or so. Age-old story of a troubled youth that found combat sports that saved him from the gutters of New Zealand. Actually, that's Australia. He moved over to MMA and so far looks pretty good. And he's not only a striker in MMA. If you run through his fight history, you'll see him shooting takedowns as well. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's traveled the world, he's got high-level combat experience, and I do think he wins this fight. I will have him in my lineup, but let's take a look at his opponent. And it doesn't show it here, but this dude's just like a retired cop who moonlights as a fighter in his spare time. Elisha Ellison is a part-time fighter. Elisha Ellison, I think he's going to come forward, try to get some takedowns, bomb away, but I don't see him being very successful, so he will not be in my lineup. Then we have Michelle Montague taking on Luana Carolina. We got a couple of lady fights on this card, and I'm pretty confident in the ladies. In this fight specifically, I do think Michelle Montague is going to get it done. She is very expensive at $9,000. She is a UFC debut. She is coming from the Bellator/PFL world, and we've seen a couple of them be giant flops. But the reality is Michelle Montague is a high-level wrestler who has competed on an international stage, a high-level grappler who has competed on an international stage, and she'll just get after it in the striking. It's not like the prettiest striking in the world, but she will move forward and just bomb away while marching down that cage, down the ring, wherever she has fought before. Michelle Montague is tough. She's got all the skills to find a finish potentially. I think Michelle Montague gets it done, but it's not going to be the easiest fight in the world. It's not exactly a layup because she's fighting Luana Carolina. And before you guys rail, she lost to Molly McCann. I get it. Molly McCann fucking sucks. But Molly McCann just did a wild spinning back elbow out of nowhere that just cracked Luana. It was just out of nowhere. It was kind of a fluke situation. For the most part, Luana Carolina is an awkward striker, which does create problems for people. She's got good hips, so the takedown defense is good. And she can move forward and get after it. She finished Julia Stolarienko. And while Michelle Montague is a better fighter than Julia, Julia's big as shit. Julia also had very good jiu-jitsu. She's just not that tough. I do think Luana Carolina is probably getting a little disrespected here because she does have wins at this level in the UFC. She beat Lupe Godinez. That was short notice for Lupe, a 1-week turnaround, if I remember correctly. I think Luana Carolina can make this somewhat competitive, but I think Michelle Montague wins. Michelle Montague might actually run right through her if she gets the takedowns immediately, but I think this is somewhat of a, I don't know how to word this because I don't think it's going to be close, but I don't think Luana is going to get embarrassed, if that makes any sense. Michelle Montague is going to be the pick. I will leave her out of my DraftKings fantasy lineup, though, because she has $9,000, and Luana doesn't suck. Where I was fine with Brando as a UFC debut, because Brando is fighting somebody who fights part-time. Michelle Montague fighting a full-time fighter who isn't horrible. Then we have Thicknesse. Colby Thicknesse. Something tells me about that profile picture. There's nothing thick on this boy. But we got Colby Thicknesse taking on Josias Musasa. Colby Thicknesse made his UFC debut kind of short notice against the older Topuria brother, Alexandre Topuria. And the whole narrative was, oh, it's Alex Volkanovski's training partner versus Elliott Topuria's brother. It didn't matter. Colby Thicknesse kind of got smacked around a little bit there. It wasn't relatively close at all. And what a lot of people are doing is saying, well, hey, Colby did pretty good against Alexandre. Alexandre is good. And Colby did well in that fight. Like, he didn't get completely embarrassed. It was short notice. So Colby's got to be good. I don't think Colby's good. I don't think he's very good. He's tough. He certainly has some skills, but I don't think he's somebody that's like, hey, that UFC debut, unfortunate circumstances, he's going to do something real. His takedowns are okay, right? He's got to work to a clinch, get against Cage to do it. His striking is pretty loose. He's got low hands. He will bounce around. He does have random power, but it's not because it's like coming from his hips or his chest. He's just jumping in and throwing those strikes. He is pretty wide, and he is hittable. And hittable is going to be a problem here because he is fighting Josias Musasa. And yes, he did lose his UFC debut. And you're going to say, oh, well, Carlos Vera's a jiu-jitsu nerd, right? He's part of that Ryan Hall fight team, and they're just rolling for leg locks. And okay, he got subbed by a jiu-jitsu nerd. That's not the reality. He got almost knocked out and then subbed by a jiu-jitsu nerd. But I'll chalk that up more to Josias just UFC debut, not taking this as serious as he should, and worried about a jiu-jitsu nerd who then randomly threw a head kick. I'll chalk it up to that, because if I just look at Josias and what he's done and how capable he is, he hits hard as hell. He is fast as hell. Josias Musasa is a good fighter. Josias Musasa is somebody that can be dangerous. Josias Musasa is somebody that can hopefully defend the takedowns. Colby's tough, so we could end up in a situation where Colby eats some early damage and then gets you to the cage, drags you to the ground. But I think Josias Musasa wins this fight. I think he hits the very hittable Colby a few too many times, and Colby just either wears the damage, doesn't deal with it well. But I'm not going to have him in my lineup, and I'm not going to bet here for two reasons. One, Colby is tough. And two, Colby's technically the hometown kid here. So we might get a weird decision if Josias is not able to get him out of there. So until I see either one of these guys win, it's very hard for me to put money on them, throw them in a DraftKings fantasy lineup, or have any real confidence in them. So we'll go ahead and skip that fight. Then we have Jamie Mullarkey taking on Rolando Bedoya. Jamie Mullarkey, not a great looking dude, right? I mean, that's basically Jacob's profile picture. And, you know, I'm not exactly walking around needing to change my underwear hanging out with Jakey boy. But while he's not conventionally attractive, what he is a decent fighter. He's got no chin whatsoever, and that doesn't really matter because he will move forward. He will stay busy. There is just sheer volume coming out of him. And then he'll work in some takedowns as well. He did just get smoked by Mauricio Ruffy, but listen, Mauricio Ruffy is better than what we saw in his last fight. He loses to Nasrat Haqparast. All right, perennial top 10-ish kind of guy. The win over John McDessie was nice. That was a nice win because Jamie Mullarkey was able to stay busy and just go strike for strike with a striker who doesn't have a ton of power. And that's the fights that he wins. Those are the fights that he wins, where he can be busy, where he can get the hands going and not worry about random power because he is very chinny. Naimov found the chin, Haqparast found the chin, Ruffy found the chin. But if we look at his fights against people who don't have that raw one-punch knockout power, he's had quite a bit of success here. And that's what we're dealing with Rolando Bedoya. Rolando Bedoya doesn't suck, right? He's got decent leg kicks. He's also had kind of a tough outing. Chaos Williams in a UFC debut, Song Kanan, Jai Herbert. These are decent fighters who are all good at different things. Rolando Bedoya has nice leg kicks. He's very durable. He's very tough. But he's not dangerous. And because he's not dangerous, because he doesn't have the one-punch knockout power, I think Jamie Mullarkey's totally fine here. Because when Jamie gets his hands going, he can have success. When Jamie gets the grappling going, he can have success. So Jamie, not worried about getting knocked out, could absolutely win this fight. Problem is, I don't think he's going to score well. So I'm picking Jamie to win. And if you can find him as an underdog and bet on him as an underdog, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. DraftKings fantasy-wise, he might score 64 points in a decision win. I can't have that. I can't have that. Not in an $8,000 salary. Then we have Jonathan Micallef taking on Oban Elliott. Jonathan Micallef came in, made his UFC debut against that French fucking nerd, Kevin Josette. Kevin lost his job over that performance. Good. Sayonara. Jonathan Micallef, okay striker. Pretty good wrestler, though. Striking's basic. Just 1-2s. Just solid. Does what he's supposed to do. Distance for the most part. Then he'll close. Get inside the pocket. Try to work in some takedowns. On the ground, he's got good pressure. He's not very dangerous, but he is solid, and he can do a good job controlling that pace. He's coming off that win over Kevin Josette where he dropped that loser. You can see that here with the knockdown. And then was just able to control the rest of that fight. I'm going to pick him here. And I might have him in my lineup at $7,900. He's taking on Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott's good. Oban Elliott's a well-rounded guy. He's got a full 15 minutes of cardio. He's got plenty of tools in the bag, striking, grappling. He'll mix it up between knees and elbows. Good old-fashioned punches. He's fast. He's athletic. He's got flashy spins. The takedown defense is just okay. But the reason I like Jonathan Micallef here is because if we look at Oban Elliott's last fight against Sung Kyung Ko, Oban was a little nervous about the power. And because he was nervous about the power, he was kind of gun shy. And then he got taken down 6 freaking times. This could be identical. Jonathan Micallef has power. We saw it when he dropped Kevin Josias. Jonathan Micallef has wrestling. So if Jonathan Micallef gets Oban to be a little tentative and starts shooting some takedowns, I think he does exactly what Ko did. And as we know, takedowns score really well. So with all of that being said, Jonathan Micallef is going to be the pick, and I will have him in my lineup. Then we have Andre Petroski. Andre Petroski is sort of tried and true, right? Very unreliable, if you will. But he's a guy who's been here for a while. He's taking on Cam Rowston. We'll talk about Cam in a second. But Andre Petroski can do all the things, right? On paper, he's strong. He's fast. He's athletic. He's got high-level wrestling, high-level jiu-jitsu. He's got power in his hands. In execution, you don't always get that, right? Shabazian sort of dropped him, and then he got a couple of takedowns, but wasn't able to keep up in the striking with Shabazian. Jacob Mulcoon, dude knocked himself out shooting a takedown. Literally knocked himself out shooting a takedown. He shot a takedown, his shoulder hit Jacob's hip, and then boom, I'm unconscious. Michel Pereira just fucking ragdolled this dude, like just embarrassed him. But if we look at these wins in between, are these high level? Is Budka, despite dude? I follow Dylan Budka because every fighter that we break down, we follow on Twitter, we follow on Instagram, and we tag them in our breakdowns and our graphics and stuff like that. So Dylan Budka's tweets will randomly hit my timeline. This dude is like 2026. I'll beat any top 20 welterweight. No, you fucking won't, dude. Like, you're not good. The dude was talking about, oh, I was training for the Olympic team. So am I. So I'm training for it too. Am I going to get on it? In no world. Saying shit like training for, anybody can train for something. Anybody. You could go outside, do 2 jumping jacks. You're training for the Olympic team. Is there a world where you get anywhere near it? No, they won't even let you look at the building, let alone get in it. Anyway, random Dylan Budka catching strays for no reason. Point being, though, Andre Petroski made correct decisions in these fights. Despite being dumb enough to knock himself out shooting a takedown, he decided in the Budka fight, I'm going to wrestle. The Josh Freem fight, hey, I need a win. I'm going to wrestle. And if he does that here, he's going to dominate this fight. Because Cam Rowston, while he's not, like, great, he is, first of all, doing an insanely quick turnaround. This dude just fought a few weeks ago on the Contender Series on a different continent than where this fight is. He's a good striker. He's got good volume, nice variety. He does a good job throwing straight strikes, like right down the middle. But he does get hit, and grappling-wise, while he can hang and create some scrambles, the wrestling's not really there. So I think if Andre Petroski, who we saw get dropped in his last fight, while Edmund is a very good striker, I'm worried that the chin might be heading in the wrong direction for Andre Petroski. So if Andre just comes in here and out-wrestles this kid, doesn't keep it close, just shoots takedown, gets on top, does damage, Andre should dominate this fight. I do think Andre wins. I'll probably have him in my lineup, if I'm being honest with you, because this kid is a Contender Series kid, unproven, doing an insanely fast turnaround. Not only is that tough in your body to cut weight that many times, whatever, on a different continent, the travel for this turnaround is insane. So I think Petroski wins this fight. I think there's levels to this. And while Petroski isn't exactly a top 10 guy in the world, he's certainly an established UFC fighter. Then we have Navajo Stirling taking on Rodolfo Bellato. I'm going to pick Navajo here. I'm not going to put Navajo in my lineup, but I will also insult him a few times. Let me insult him a little bit. First of all, he did score 107 points in his last fight, but that's because he went full wrestling. 3 takedowns and a knockdown against Urslan. We're not going to get that in this fight. What we will likely get is the Tukotokos fight, 67 points. And that's because Navajo is not as dangerous of a striker as people make him out to be. If you listen to the locals breaking down Navajo Stirling, he's the next coming of Christ. This guy's going to save the division. He's an unbelievably high-level striker. No, he's a good fighter. He's a well-rounded fighter. He doesn't have the power they pretend that he has. He doesn't have the finishing ability they pretend that he has. We've seen him at this level fight 2 guys that aren't really spectacular, and he can't find those finishes. But what he is, though, is well-rounded. He's got good technical striking where he'll stay on the outside. Decent takedown defense. If he gets taken down, he doesn't panic. He stands back up, and we've seen offensive takedowns out of him. And I do think he wins this fight. But let me caution you a little bit. Rodolfo Bellato doesn't suck. Ugliest dude on the roster. But he doesn't suck. He's a good grappler, and he's tough as hell. You don't have a face like that and not be able to take a punch. He can take a punch. He moves forward, takes a little bit of a beating, can grind in some takedowns, can make something happen. Obviously, he's coming off a couple weirdo fights in a row. His UFC debut, he beats Ihor Potieria. Fine, that dude's pretty finishable. Then in the Jimmy Crute fight, he beats Jimmy Crute 2 rounds, but gave up a 10-8 early. So that ends up being a draw. The Paul Craig fight, he ends up with the performance of a lifetime. There's an illegal kick, a very valid illegal kick, but instead of just taking it like a man and moving on, Rodolfo Bellato was like, oh. It was the same performance that SD Dumas did with a little bit of a nut shot. And I'm yet to see an x-ray of a smashed testicle. And while I'm not like begging to see that dude's nuts, dude, you can't do what you did at Noche and then not have medical proof. You can't do it. We need medical proof that that wasn't a wild dog and pony show. Anyway, Rodolfo Bellato is getting a lot of flack for those last 2 performances, and as he should, but he is tough. He can move forward. He can grind. He can get takedowns, and he can take a shot. Navajo Stirling isn't Alex Bejeda with power. Navajo Stirling has been taken down before, and he's not going to shoot offensive takedowns. So for Navajo to win, he needs to stay on the outside, pick Rodolfo apart, not get taken down. And I do think he does that, but I'm not throwing in my lineup because A, there's a risk here with Rodolfo just taking shots and grinding forward. And B, Navajo's not, I don't think, going to score very well in a win. Then we have Tom Nolan taking on Charlie Campbell. This is a fun fight that I'm surprised is as wide as it is. Tom Nolan, long, lean guy. He is accurate. He is technical. He has no problem getting into a brawl. Outside of that 1 loss on his record to Nicholas Mata, he also has a pretty good chin. Nicholas Mata hits a lot harder than people want to give him credit for. He's got lots of pressure, lots of volume, tons of power. The striking defense isn't there. He is more hittable than he should be, but he is coming off this win over Vyacheslav Borishev where he mixed in a takedown. And that well-timed takedown might have been the difference between winning and losing that fight. He is taking on Charlie Campbell. Charlie Campbell coming out of that Longo fight camp with Merab and Aljo, and he's got some high-level training partners. Charlie Campbell is a guy that we saw get into a little bit of a scrap with Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek sucks skill-wise, but Trevor Peek is tough. Trevor Peek is reckless. And Charlie hung with him in the toughness, in the reckless, got hit a bunch of times, shot some takedowns. Charlie Campbell's a pretty good fighter, well-rounded, but he is also very, very hittable because he keeps his hands so damn low. He's got solid volume, but he slows down as the fight goes on. I'm going to pick Tom Nolan. I am probably fading this fight because this, to me, is a 50-50 fight. This should be the $8,000, $8,200 price point. They're both very similar fighters. I'm going to just ever so slightly lean Tom Nolan. And that's because I think Charlie relies on leg kicks quite a bit, and Tom Nolan's just going to move forward. And as he's moving forward, it's hard to plant and throw those leg kicks without getting cracked yourself. So Tom Nolan is going to be the pick because I think the forward pressure is going to mess Charlie's game plan up here, but this is a razor-thin fight that I likely don't jump on. Then we have Justin Tafa. Justin Tafa taking on a UFC debut. Justin Tafa, the older brother, his younger brother is supposed to be the co-main event, but that fight got scrapped. Justin Tafa, heavyweight striker, you know what you're going to get. He's got those fat-ass legs, so if he decides to kick you, he'll blast your legs. If he decides to punch, he's got some real power there, and he pretty much has a good chin. We did just see him get knocked out by Teixeira. That was a little surprising because Justin's chin is good. Before that, we saw Carl Williams out wrestling, but it is important to note Carl Williams is the only person that has ever taken Justin down. Others have tried. Nobody has succeeded. Justin Tafa, he's just a new age Mark Hunt. He's going to strike, nothing else. He'll never attempt to take down. He'll never do anything else. He's just going to strike. He is taking on UFC debut with Louis Sutherland. Louis Sutherland also built the same way. He's built more like a bodybuilder than like a Samoan, if you will. But he is heavy-handed. He's fast. He's got that sort of bodybuilder wideness and awkwardness to him. But even with that wideness and awkwardness, he's pretty versatile. He uses kicks. He's got a long jab. He manages range. He'll commit to power. He'll even shoot takedowns. And he doesn't just like shoot him. He'll bend over, grab the leg, pull it backwards real quick, and do what he's supposed to do. Louis Sutherland is absolutely, without question, the more well-rounded fighter. It's not even close. But keeps his hands a little low. He can get hit. Justin Taffa hits hard as hell. I'm going to pick Louis here because I think he's just more well-rounded. So a guy that could threaten a takedown and then throw some big power, I'm going to pick that guy. But these are sloppy heavyweights. And if somebody gets hit, somebody could get knocked out. So being a very firm on one side or another here is kind of a crazy thing to do. But I am going to pick Louis Sutherland. And if you are doing multiple entries and you're chasing the giant payouts that got these people this amount of money, if you're chasing these, go to the DraftKings optimizer, either use the beginner mode and say that you like Louis Sutherland as a dog, or come in here and adjust the minimum exposure and make sure Louis Sutherland is in some of your lineups, because I think Louis Sutherland is a phenomenal underdog on this card, especially at this price point. Then we have Jake Matthews and Neil Magny. Jake Matthews should absolutely win this fight. Now, what he scores is going to be the big question, because if we look at his normal fights, like what he did against Prado, 64 points, how he beat Phil Rowe, 77 points, those are not conducive of a $9,600 salary. And that's because Jake Matthews isn't typically the most dangerous guy in the world. He did just climb Chidi Njokuani's back and submit him for 97 points, but typically Jake Matthews is perfectly happy striking, point striking, perfectly happy getting like one takedown, hanging out. Jake Matthews is younger here. He's faster here. He's the same skill set striker, same skill set grappler, got the wrestling, and he's not stupid. And I'm pointing out he's not stupid because people who lose to Neil Magny sometimes are stupid. Let me show you a moron. Mike Malott, moron. Made a decision, got put in a bad spot, and then quit. Scroll our way down. Phil Rowe, moron. Phil Rowe was like, you know what? Neil Magny's very good in the clinch. Let me clinch with him. And then lost the fight because he's a moron. But Neil Magny at this point in his career at 38 years old is only beating other olds, right? Zaleski dos Santos, old. The Mike Malott fight, Mike quit in that fight. And that was also a little while ago at this point. I don't think Neil Magny is going to be able to out-veteran Jake Matthews, because Jake Matthews is also, at this point in his career, pretty established. He's not getting taken advantage of for making stupid mistakes. So Jake Matthews is going to be the pick. The question is not if he's going to win. The question is, how many points does he score in a win? And I don't think it's going to be that many. I don't think he's just going to climb Neil Magny's back and get him out of there like he did against Chidi Njokuani. So I'm probably avoiding Jake Matthews as well. $9,600, you need to kick the shit out of Neil Magny. And, you know, Neil Magny's a guy that, yes, people have kicked the shit out of him, but who? Carlos Prates? Mike Morales? Ian Gary? Like, let's go ahead and fade that fight. Then we have our co-main event of the evening. Actually, no, our featured fight of the evening. Jack Jenkins, Ramon Tavares. I'm going to pick Jack Jenkins here, but and I know some people are like, you know, you just hate the Australians and New Zealanders. That's not true. That's not true. I'm picking Jack Jenkins. I think Jack Jenkins is a good fighter. I will say, though, I think his reputation is a little overblown. He broke somebody's leg with leg kicks like a few years ago. And that reputation has just been following him like he's a world beater. Just following him around like he's an absolute savage. His like, listen, he did regional shit to a regional guy. Now he's good, but let's look at the resume. Oh, he beat Don Sheamus. Oh, Jamal Emmers is a decent win. Chepe Mariscal, he was winning that fight, and then Jack Jenkins like broke his arm or his elbow, whatever. Then you beat Herbert Burns. The shitty part of it, yes, you beat Herbert Burns. He was taken down by Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns might be the worst fighter in the history of the UFC. Literally. And he took down Jack Jenkins. And then he just lost to Gabriel Santos, but Gabriel's very good. Jack Jenkins is good. He's a good striker. Well-rounded guy. He's got a little bit of power in the mix there. Jack Jenkins is, you know, overall, powerful guy, has multiple ways to win. So I'm going to pick him to win. But 64 points, 97, 104. He's going to need to find a finish here. And I don't know if he will, because Ramon Tavares is tough as shit. So I'm going to pick the guy to win, but I'm going to fade him. Ramon Tavares is a good fighter. He is a powerful striker in his own right. He keeps his hands pretty low to try to protect from takedowns, because that's all anybody's ever trying to do is take him down. The problem is he does have power. He knows he has power, and he chases power. So he just starts bombing overhands. That's how he lost to Davey Grant. Bombing overhands. If he starts doing that here, then Jack's definitely going to pick him apart. If Ramon Tavares is just launching overhands, Jack can chop down that tree and blast his legs out. So Jack Jenkins is going to be the pick here. I don't think he finishes Ramon. I don't think he's going to get a bunch of takedowns. So I think he wins a fight where he scores 70 points. And I'm not spending $9,000 plus to only get 70 points back. Jack Jenkins is the pick. Ramon Tavares, decent dog. You might want some exposure to him as well because, if we take a look at the Siri Saidi fight, right? He got some volume going. Found that power. It's not like Jack Jenkins is invincible, but we're going to avoid that fight. Then we have the co-main event. Jimmy Crute taking on Ivan Arslan. Jimmy Crute finally has a win. And I don't know if you realize this. That was his first win in 5 years. 5 years. Let's take a look. 2025. He beats Marcin Prochniel. He finally looked like a professional fighter in the premier organization. Before that, the draw with Bellato because despite almost finishing Bellato, he gave up the next 2 rounds. Embarrassing. Loses to Alonzo Menafield. Draw to Alonzo Menafield. Loses to Hill. Loses to Smith. And he beats Modestas Bukauskas all the way back in 2020. Quite literally, 5 years to get that win. 5 years. But he got it. Skill-wise, Jimmy Crute is a good grappler, decent striker. He has all the skills. His issue has always been his brain. Always. He can quit. He can be broken. He has no self-confidence whatsoever. He retired, unretired. Like, Jimmy Crute's issue is always his brain. And if he saw a sports psychologist and was able to get that shit under control, he's got all the talent and the skills to, world champion's an absurd thing to say, but certainly compete at a decent level and beat the Alonzo Menafields and the Rodolfo Bellatos of the world. So I don't know where his headspace is going to be, but I assume fighting at home is going to give him a little bit of an advantage there. He's taking on Ivan Arslan. Ivan Arslan's pretty much power or bust. He's all power. He can end your night with one punch. He will alternate between just brawling psychopath and technical striker. He's got decent movement. He's pretty light in his feet for a guy that just likes to plot forward and then bomb away. He'll find some counters there as well, but he's definitely KO or bust. He lost to Navajo Sterling where he was taken down a bunch of times. I don't think he's going to find a KO, so therefore I think he's a bust. Jimmy Crute's going to be the pick, and I think Jimmy Crute actually is probably safe to throw in your lineup because if he does come forward, shoot the takedowns. I mean, if Navajo Sterling's taking down Ivan Arslan, Jimmy Crute's taking down Ivan Arslan. So as long as Jimmy Crute isn't losing his mind, he's going to go ahead and be the pick. Then we have the main event of the evening, Carlos Ulberg, Dominic Reyes. I'm going to pick Carlos Ulberg here, but let's take a look at his last fight. Jan Blachowicz, he scored 60 points. This is 5 rounds instead of 3. Let's go ahead and add another, let's say he scores 80 points, 90 points. It should be 100, right, if he was doing 20 a round. But it's not really 20 a round because you get the 30-point win bonus. Anyway, let's say he scored 80, 90 points in that fight. That was a fight where he was kind of just running backwards. Landing counters, running backwards, wasn't the cleanest win in the world, didn't do much, and that was against a 40-year-old man who wasn't really trying to take him down. In this fight, he's fighting Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes likely not trying to take him down either, and Carlos Ulberg is the better striker, but Carlos Ulberg is massive. He's used to being massive. He's used to being long. Dominic Reyes has like a ridiculous build where he's all torso, but he's 6'4" and he's got some reach on him. I think Carlos Ulberg wins this fight because he's the better striker, he's more technical, and this is a mostly striking matchup. But Dominic Reyes has this like random revival. I've said in other videos, this is the only fighter I have ever seen pull himself out of a death spiral at any meaningful level. Obviously, he had this body of work. Good wins in here, right? I don't know who the hell Kimball is, but Jared Cannonier, Oven St. Preux, Volkan Ozdemir, Chris Weidman, all to get to the title. A lot of people think he beat John Jones as well. But then he gets knocked out by Blachowicz, knocked out by Yuri Prohaska, knocked out by Ryan Spann. Finally, 2 years later, gets a win over Dustin Jacoby, a win over Anthony Smith, a win over Nikita Krylov. And while he didn't fight those people in their prime, they're all decent fighters who have skills, and Dominic Reyes knocked them all out. I have never seen somebody pull themselves out of a death spiral. 4 losses in a row, 3 by knockout. We've seen people lose a bunch in a row and then scrape out 1 win and then lose again. Cody Garbrandt's the best example of that. We haven't seen somebody just full-blown turn it around. So he is on something right now. He is finding power. He is knocking people out. We have seen Carlos Ulberg get knocked out in a fight that he was fully ahead. Dominic Reyes is the more dangerous fighter in this matchup. Carlos Ulberg is the better overall striker in this matchup. I'm going to pick Carlos Ulberg, but if you're on the Reyes side at $6,900, that's not an absurd thing to do. I'm on the Ulberg side, guys. That is the breakdown. Go to the damn website. These people did over $1 million in winnings over the last couple of years. $1 million. And that's just slow and steady. Obviously, some monsters, 64 grand, 34 grand, 25 grand, 10 here, 10 there, 5 here, 5 there. But guys, the website at $10 a month is quite literally the greatest offering in this space. It has everything you could ever want or need. Whether you're here for bets, we got the bets. If you're here for fantasy, we've got all the fantasy tools. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member at the top. It's $10 for an entire month. That's $3.33 a week. Like, what are we? Nope, that's not. That would be for 3 weeks. You idiot. $2.50 a week. Even better deal. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member at the top. Guys, I'm looking forward to fights being back. I didn't realize how out of sorts I would be without fights every Saturday. And while we hit those like 13-week stretches and then we get 1 week off, it's kind of nice for me, honestly, to just be able to chill on a Saturday and not have the weight of the world on me with the picks and the bets. Doing that twice in a month sucks. Fights are back. Thanks for being here. Good luck this weekend.